Hello, my name is Danielle from Galeport Public Library, here to show you how to make these adorable little owl plushies. This video complements the November to Go craft kits that will be available to pick up at the Reiko and South Elgin branches while supplies last. With that, let's look at the supplies. So the supplies that you'll get in your kit are a bag of polyfill, 2 buttons, some embroidery floss, a piece of cardboard that you'll need to cut the circle out of, and 3 pieces of fabric. 1 piece that is a quarter circle, 1 piece that is 1/8 of a circle, and a scrap piece that will be the bottom of your owl. Other supplies that you'll need will be scissors, sewing needle, sewing thread, and if you're going to make the owl with the little ear tufts, you will need some yarn. And with that, let's begin. Okay, so start off, you're going to thread your needle. I usually only use about a forearm's length of thread. You're going to make a knot at the end of that thread. So you're going to take your quarter circle, your 1/8 of a circle, and we're going to be sewing in about a 1/4 inch of a seam. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you're like me and you want to keep as straight a line as possible, you can make a little line with pencil on the back side of the fabric. So you're going to take your 1/8 of a piece and lay it like this on your quarter piece. And using small stitches and trying to stay on that line if you're using a line. You're just going to follow that line all the way to the top. Your stitches don't need to be perfect. This is just a silly little owl plushie. It's a good beginner learning how to sew craft kit. If you have a sewing machine, you can also do this on your sewing machine. And try to keep the edges of your fabrics even. So if you have marked out the 1/4 inch, you're going to meet at those 1/4 inch intersecting points a little bit below the point here. And now you're going to take your 1/8 of an inch and you're going to line the bottom up all the way to the top like this. You're going to notice that there's going to be some gap here. That's fine. When we turn them inside out, that's where the beak's going to go. And then you're just going to continue sewing in little stitches down the side. once you get to the bottom, you're just going to do a couple back stitches. So just in where you came from, and back where you came from. And that'll help lock the thread. That. Okay. And so now you're going to turn the body inside out. Like that. And be careful when you're poking that little tip out, because remember, there's a little gap right there. Okay. So right now it should look a little something like that. Okay. Next, you're going to take your embroidery thread, because we're going to sew on the little beak. So you thread. So you're going to thread this into your sewing needle. Okay. Okay. Put a knot in there. Okay. And now you're just going to fold this down. And if you want to put the optional little ear tufts in, this is where you would do it. You would just take your yarn and folding it down like this. And then when we're done sewing the eyes and the beak, you can trim those down a little bit. So you don't want to put them too far down. You can always take your eyes to sort of gauge where it is. That looks about right. Now this is going to be a little awkward because you're going to be sewing just on this. You don't want to sew through the bottom. I'm just going to flip them around. So you take your needle and just coming up through the back like that. Now, if you want to try to make it look perfect, like a little beak, that's fine. Or you can just go like a little crazy like this. Again, this is just a fun little owl plushie. Doesn't have to be perfect. Kind of looking like a little ragamuffin is just fine. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But again, if you want to make a fuller beak, that's up to you. Alright, I think that's good. So push your needle through the back. And to lock the thread, just weave your sewing needle under the threads a couple times, like so. And the next thing we will do, we will sew on our buttons. So we're going to need some more sewing thread. Just 1 second. Alright. No, they're not. So now that we have our little owl here, gonna find where you want to place the eyes. I'll do one eye. And again, this might be a little awkward with how small his body is. Again, you're just going through that one layer of fabric. And I messed up. Sorry about that. Okay. Alright, let me see if I can do this correctly. Alright. Can be a little difficult with the little yarn tufts. So you're going to do this for both eyes. And then just like with the beak, when you're done, you're just going to run the sewing thread underneath the back a couple times to lock that thread. So I'm going to finish up this little eye and the other eye, and then we will move on to the next part. Okay, so we have the face done. And before we fill it with polyfill, we're going to make a running stitch or a gathering stitch along the bottom. That's basically just a regular sewing stitch, just longer lengths. So I'll show you. You're going to knot your thread, and I'm getting relatively close to the edge, just a long stitch like that. So you want lengths sort of like that. Almost to the beginning. Alright, so we have our running stitch all along the bottom. And keep your needle threaded. Okay, so you're going to take your polyfill. I'm just going to start stuffing the owl. And this, you might want to fluff the polyfill just a little bit. It'll help it expand. And it's up to you how much you want, how much stuffing you want in the owl. Okay. So once that's in. Alright, so now you're just going to hold on to those two beginning threads, and you're going to pull. And this will close up the bottom. Actually, I'm going to take the thread that's still attached to the needle and just pull. And the reason that I did not take the needle off was because once I've got that gathered, I'm just gonna put just a couple back stitches on the bottom. Will help keep it in place, like that. Don't worry, it's going to be covered by a little cardboard piece. So now we got the owl body done. So now we're going to do the bottom. Now for this, if you haven't already, cut out the circle from your cardboard. And then you're going to take your scrap circle and your scissors. If you want to make this a little easier, you can also trace around the circle, because you don't want to cut out a perfect circle of your bottom thread, because we're also going to do a running stitch around it. And so I'm just going to sort of eye it. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. But you really do not want to cut. You want space for the fabric to gather along the piece of cardboard. Like that. Okay. Then you're going to take your needle and thread, do another knot, and you're going to do another running stitch along the edge. Came off. Alright. Once that's on, you're going to take your piece of cardboard, just place it in there, and then again you're just going to pull. Like that. And again, if you want, you can just take some stitches along there to help keep it from unopening, I suppose. I got our bottom done, and now we just have to sew it to the bottom of the owl. I'm going to need some more sewing thread. Okay. Alright, so now to do this, and don't worry about these little threads, you can always trim them when you're done. So I'm going to lay that over the bottom, and then, let's see if I can get close. I'm just going to catch a little bit of the body and the very edge of the fabric, like that. Nice and tight. And again, a little bit of the body, a little bit of the fabric on the circle. Pull it tight. And you're just going to do this all the way around. I think so. And just the body and the circle. And once you get to the end, you can sort of fluff them out a little bit more. Again, you can trim his little ears. And then just do a couple back stitches and you'll be done. And that is how you make these really cute little owl ragdoll plushies. I hope you enjoyed, and happy crafting!